Hello, everyone, and welcome to our KaiNexus Training Team Office Hours webinar, episode 28. My name is Adam Darnell, and I am the Training and Enablement Manager here at KaiNexus. And once again, I am joined by my esteemed colleague, Product Manager Ryan Rippey. Ryan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Adam. Hello, fellow KaiNexians. I am riding the work from home train today. I hope everyone is healthy and went ahead and washed their hands before dialing into our webinar today.
Yes, absolutely. Hope everyone's staying safe out there in these trying times. So for those of you new to our webinar series, welcome aboard. The way this works is we plan to take the next 30 or so minutes to dive into a KaiNexus topic that we will share with you all in just a bit. The purpose of these webinars is for us to review the hottest topics and the latest and greatest features suggested by you, our customers. So before I reveal our topic for today, let's go over some housekeeping items. The first, this webinar is being recorded, so we'll go ahead and send out the slides and recording to everyone after the webinar. Also, if you do have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to type those in the chat box seen here. We'll do our best to answer those questions in real time, as well as at the very end of the webinar if there's some time left over. Alrighty, let's take a look at our webinar topic for today. The 2.4.3 release. So our most recent release will be covering a few topics brought by that release.
That's right, Adam. We're combing through our release notes and showing off some of the top new improvements that the recent 2.4.3 release brings to KaiNexus. So I'm super excited to show these off.
So sounds good. Let's go ahead and take a look at the agenda for today. So as I said, we'll be covering some of the enhancements that 2.4.3 brings to KaiNexus. So starting off, we'll be touching on lists and filter enhancements, moving on down to ad hoc enhancements, then some chart enhancements, report enhancements, and of course, standard work enhancements as well. So with all of that being said, we are excited to jump in. So let's go ahead and hop over to our KaiNexus instance. So the first section that we want to touch on is updates to our lists and filters. So, and the first one being anticipated start date and anticipated due date. So let me hop into an item that displays this. So this new feature visualizes when planned items in the plan status are expected to start and end, which makes seeing an accurate timeline easier. So we notice here in the date section, I have my anticipated start date and anticipated due date. And if I hop over to our list section, we'll notice that I can add them as filter options. So I can add anticipated start date and or due date as filter options, and I can add them as columns in list tree or Gantt view as well. So we see here, I can simply add these as columns if need be. So you can really drill down and see kind of any of the anticipated start and or due dates that are approaching.
I think one of the nice things, Adam, is the anticipated start date and due dates have always been visualized from the Gantt view. And so the Gantt view is always a really great place to visualize that information. This is just taking it to the next level now from a list view, from a tree view, being able to filter down on specific items based on those dates. So super powerful tool and should get a lot of use in KaiNexus from our customers.
Absolutely, great call out. So moving on to a few more enhancements, let's touch on the ad hoc enhancements that have been added in 2.4.3. So let me hop over to another item here. It was actually just listed in my list section. We have the ability to show total and or average on ad hoc number columns. So we see here that we have a few years with some financial data, and then we have this additional ad hoc field listed here. So once configured, I can essentially have this column show the total and show the average in this sense. And we've also added tooltips on ad hoc text and number field columns. So in my additional requests column here, I can simply hover over and I get my tooltip. So just monthly requests, just a tooltip I added on the template level. And the last section that I want to touch on is some additions or some improvements to our standard work section. So let me hop over there. And we will expand one of our standard work items. So we now have the ability to put links on standard work items. So let me just grab a kind of a basic link here, and I can simply add my link. Oops. Give it a name, of course, and then add my link address. And so this will ensure that this link shows up within my standard work items. And furthermore, images added as files to standard work will be displayed in the image panel upon creating standard work. So for instance, I have my little idea image down here. I can add this as a file. And then when I go to edit, we also notice that we do have the option, we could simply just have the link to the image file if need be. Or if we do want it to show up in our standard work item, we can click this show in image area box and then choose the column alignment if need be. So those are just a few of the enhancements that 2.4.3 brings to KaiNexus. I'm going to pass it over to Ryan to take us through charts.
All right, so bear with me, Adam. I'm going to attempt to take over your screen here.
Yes, I've given you control.
So we're going to talk charts. The first chart example, let's go ahead and jump into 2848. So the first chart enhancement that I want to talk about is going to be some bar setting enhancements. So let's just jump into our chart here. Now, you all might be laughing at the visualization of this. When I was putting it together, I was chuckling myself with Adam. This kind of looks like the carpet of a daycare or something like that. But in all seriousness, the visualization that we're seeing here before we kind of get into how we set this up, in this case, we're looking at our year-over-year customer complaints is the metric that we're tracking. So we have a goal that's set. It looks like it's at about 45. Current year right now, January through December, is going to be our 2019 that we're tracking. So we can see those bars. Behind that, you'll notice there is a line chart that is actually filling everything underneath that for the 2018 data. And then even behind that, you have your 2017 data. So there's actually a lot of power behind the visualization here. Forgive me for using such cartoonish characters, but to set something like this up, if we come over to the ellipsis here and we go and edit our chart, all of these new options from a bar setting standpoint are actually going to be available if you click into the advanced options here in the top right. So you're going to notice that there's a new section here for bar settings. So the bar settings is going to let you, and we'll talk through these, you can control the maximum and minimum bar width. You can actually mess around with your bar fill opacity, and you can choose the gap width that you see between the bars as well. And so in this case, we have a pretty narrow gap width. We noticed that the bar width was also pretty narrow. The fill opacity is currently at 100%. Let me come in here and maybe switch this to 80 so you can kind of see what that would look like. Go ahead and save this. Then we'll jump back so we can see kind of what the opacity of the bars looks like. If you mess around with that feature, you can see that they're a little bit more transparent now. So the less percentage that you use there, the more transparent that'll make that. The other thing that I want to point out is the ability to move lines to the back of the chart. So in this case, we have our 2018 and 2017 lines. If you come over back into the ellipsis and edit your chart, you're going to notice a new option. Let's go into 2017 here. So when you're working within the appearance, you'll see that you have this send to back. So this will allow you to send your lines to the back, or if you have that unchecked, that'll bring them forward. Not new to this release, but just pointing out some of the other visualization options here in case this is new to you. You can see that you can customize that bar line color, the line width. You can choose to use a dash lines visualize the markers of your data points. And then what we were seeing specifically with the blue and yellow was this concept of the fill. So with the fill, you can choose a color and opacity for that as well. So a lot of customization options that are now available. Specifically in this release, we've enhanced them for the bar settings, but with the previous functionality, you can now combine those with a lot of your line settings as well to make some really customizable charts based on the types of KPIs that you are trying to track in KaiNexus. So I hope everyone enjoyed our colorful chart there. The next chart enhancement that I want to talk about is the ability to filter data series by locations. So bear with me on this one. There's going to be quite a bit that we're going to talk through here. I'm going to jump out of this chart, and we're going to start off by going to another chart in the system. This is going to be our number of falls, Austin. Okay, so this particular chart here, number of falls in Texas, let me go ahead and expand this so we can see a little bit better. So what I want to point out here is it's a multi-step process to take full advantage of the feature functionality that we're going to talk about here, right? So let's say, for example, we have a chart in our Austin location, right? Maybe that is a plant, maybe it's a hospital. So at that location, maybe we are tracking the number of falls in Austin, for example. Then on another chart, maybe we are tracking the number of falls in Dallas. So at the Dallas plant or hospital, we are tracking that same metric. Well, from a operational leader standpoint, if you are responsible for overseeing both the Austin and Dallas plant / hospital, maybe you want to visualize these metrics together on one chart, and maybe you want to take that a step further and have that chart as a chart card on a board that you have access to and maybe your supervisor has access to. So in this case, what we did is we have one chart that is tracking the number of falls in Austin, and we have another chart that's tracking the number of falls in Dallas. And in this third chart of our number of falls in Texas, which is our master chart, we're actually pulling in these two series as what are called shared series in KaiNexus. So when you're setting up a shared series, just to give you some insight into where these guys are coming from, you would create a data series, right? And in this case, we'll go ahead and type in our, let's say we were doing the number of falls in Austin. And then whether you're using a line or bar, you would come down to the shared series and you would pull from that chart at the Austin location. So for example, what we would look for here is our number of falls in Austin. And then we would pull the particular series of that chart that we're tracking, which would be the falls. So if I go ahead and save this, what that's going to do is add what we see here is our number of falls in Austin and our number of falls in Dallas. So each of these charts is tied to a location, right? When I created that number of falls in Austin chart, that is in the Austin, location, Austin plant or hospital, and the same for our Dallas chart. So now if we take this particular master chart, we can add this as a chart card to a board. So to do that, you would come over here in the plus sign, you would add a chart card. We would go with choose existing, which would be our number of falls in Texas. And that would give us the ability to pull up this particular chart that we see here. Now wait, it doesn't end there. To take it a step further, when you add this location filter to your board, so for those of you who want to know how to do that, if you go ahead and edit your board, there is going to be an option here for show location filter. So you can go ahead and enable that. That's going to add this location filter, which maps out your organizational hierarchy that is constructed in KaiNexus. And so we know that of this chart, we are looking at metrics from Austin and from Dallas. And so if I go ahead and expand from locations here, you'll notice that if I select Austin, what that's going to do is it now updated that chart to just show me the metrics specific to Austin. And then if I was to switch over to Dallas, that would now adjust those metrics in the chart to just show me Dallas. And of course, if you want to see both, then I go ahead and hold down Command and select Austin again. That would, what was it, Adam? Is it Command or Control?
Yep, should just be the Command key on a Mac or the Windows key on a.
There we go. The struggles of screen sharing. So now you can see here that we have both the Austin and the Dallas location that are selected there. So this is a super, super powerful tool. While you're on a board with that chart card using the shared series that I just showed, you're now going to use the location filter over there on the left to display and filter the data from multiple locations on that chart using, again, that filter data series by location functionality. If you need any help at all in getting this set up, please reach out to your customer experience lead. For those of you who go through our support channel, our friend Noah actually has put together some very descriptive documentation on how to set this up. So he's also a great resource of getting that put in place at your organization. So again, that is our filtered data series by location, which you can also go ahead and use those bar settings to make nice and pretty as you desire. So that wraps up our chart enhancements. I now want to go ahead and move over to the report enhancements. So I'm going to jump into the report section here. And here in the reports, there are two specific reports I want to talk about. The first one, I'm going to go out of order here just since we're in the activity section. I'm going to go ahead and pop open this activity by template report. So this is an entirely new report in KaiNexus. This has been added, as you saw there, to the activity section, and this report allows you to get a bird's eye view of how your templates are being used in KaiNexus. So with this report, you can see, of course, which of your templates are being used, but how many items of that template type are in the system, and what status those items are in as well. So we can see here on the left-hand side, we have our template type, so what the name of our template is in KaiNexus, the total number of items in the system. For those items that have some sort of resolution configured, you can see the complete change and change percentage. As I mentioned, you can see the status of those items, so make sure you run to the red and address those overdue items. You can also, I believe, add another column option in here for the actual workflow. So if you want to be able to go ahead and sort this to kind of see your projects versus improvements versus charts, etc., you can go ahead and add that workflow column in there as well. Of course, there is the quick filter in the top right, which would allow you to quickly drill down into all of your template types that are improvements, for example, improvements and projects, etc. So super powerful report. We think that this would help a lot just from an internal audit standpoint, kind of take a look at which of your templates are not being used very often. In this case, if I'm looking at this report, I notice that of my projects, this goal type project, this DMAIC project in particular in the system, I only have one created. So are we actually really using that workflow in the system? When I'm looking at my pillars, I can see in this case that a majority of those are overdue. So maybe there's a gap in the process of the workflow for that particular template type. Just a way to start to look at the data in this report and take action there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this report came just in time for some spring cleaning for some of us. So.
Oh, I like it. So let's jump out of this report. The next report that I'm going to talk through is some of the enhancements we made to our impact by attribute report. So this is going to be over in the attribute tab. I'm going to open up the impact by attribute. Now, what I'm going to walk through here is probably going to mean a lot more to our organizations that are using the advanced ROI functionality. What you're going to be able to do is a couple of things here. You can now run this report by realize date. So that's the first thing, is up in the reference date here at the top, you can switch this over to realized. Again, that is something specific to advanced ROI. In addition to that, you are also going to be able to, once you're in graph mode over here, you're going to be able to add multiple line series. You'll also be able to take advantage of this cumulative checkbox as well. So what does that mean? Let's say, for example, we go ahead and select our attribute, and maybe I want to select, let's do, I think strategic initiative will look okay for us. Now, before we get too much further, the idea here is, and probably the best use case of this is, let's say, for example, that you have an attribute on a project type, and maybe that attribute is project phase. And so maybe your project goes through 3 or 4 phases before you actually complete it. What this is going to allow you to do is you'll be able to see the impact of items based on what phase it might be in for that attribute. Okay, so in this case, we're going to use strategic initiative, or you can imagine that this would be, project phase, for example. So right now, display as bar, we have our total financial impact. That's what we have in here as default. You can, of course, change that. If you were, for example, using that project phase and had those numbered, maybe you want to look at those in the order that they would go in KaiNexus. So in that case, I would go all the way down here and sort this by name. Probably won't make.
We might be able to, let me interject real quick. We might be able to squeeze a little bit more out of this. I think if we just want to switch the reference date back to complete, we might be able to get a little bit more visualization here.
Sure. Okay. Very nice. So in this case, we're going to be sorting by name. So imagine this was, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and that's going to come into play when we come back over here to this cumulative option. But before we do that, you'll notice this new option for display as line. So what this is going to allow you to do is, let's say, for example, right now we're looking at our total financial impact actual with these bar series. Maybe we also want to visualize our forecast and target, or maybe we want to drill down specifically on how, for example, a total cost savings relates to our total financial impact. So you can add additional lines to the chart and visualize those in comparison to your total impact, right? And then to take it a step further, what really kind of pulls all this together, especially with those kind of phases use case, is if you want to go ahead and look at this cumulatively, you can see, of course, by checking this, you're going to see the total impact calculated by adding the impact of all of those preceding values on the x-axis, and then, of course, over your selected time period, you can see how that starts to change. So this is probably not the strongest example, but again, the biggest use case that you're going to get the most bang for your buck here is if you are tracking project phases in some way on a project or on an improvement, something like that. This will allow you to kind of see where the money's at in that project phase as it's moving through its life cycle. So very, very enriched stuff here. Again, a lot of this is going to apply to if you are using the advanced ROI module. So if you'd like to get some more information on that, or maybe do a trial, definitely reach out to your customer experience representative to get that set up. Adam, that wraps up what I had. Should we go into some questions that I see have come through?
Yeah, it looks like we did get a few questions that came in, so much appreciated for that. So the first one that I'm seeing here is, can you have multiple number field columns in ad hoc that show total and or average? So fantastic question. Let me hop back into the item that I was using that displays that. The short answer is yes. So for this particular item, or this template in this case, I've set up the total and average just for this specific ad hoc column. If I did, because there is only one column in this case, if I did have multiple columns, I can turn on total and or average for each of those columns. So if we're only interested in the total of a given column, we can select that, or average in that case. So short answer, absolutely. You can show total and or average for any column within an ad hoc field. And then looks like we have a few more after this, Rip. I'll let you take the reins on the next one.
Okay, yeah. So the next one that I see here is, okay, this is, so we have some advanced users on the line. So
Yeah.
when editing a planned item that has an upstream or downstream dependency, will the anticipated start date and anticipated due dates of those upstream or downstream items also update to align with these changes? Oh my goodness, a long walk for a short drink of water. So I'm going to use what you said, Adam. The simple answer to that is yes. So what Adam was showing before, and Adam, maybe we can pull up that item that was planned again, just to have some visualization.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in this case, okay, perfect. So as you can see here with this holding area improvement, at the very top, you'll notice that this will start 5 days after the completion of Kaizen event. So in this case, it has what is referred to as an upstream dependency. So when you're working with your items and setting up dependencies between those, if you do go in and update start dates and end dates, that will actually go ahead and trigger the, so this would be where you would set that up. That will update the anticipated start dates and due dates for any upstream or downstream dependencies. So it is very smart in that regard. That is a fantastic question, though.
Yeah.
And then the last one I see here, Adam, is can I restrict the chart data that is seen when toggling between locations? So if we jump back to our operations board, perfect.
Yeah.
The answer to that is also yes. So in this case, if, for example, I was to have access to this board, but I was not able to see charts that were created in Dallas, in that case, when I come here, I would see, my Austin metrics. And if I tried to click on Dallas, it wouldn't show me anything there. So it can be restricted based on your view permissions in KaiNexus. Those are some phenomenal questions.
Yeah, fantastic questions, everyone. Thank you so much again.
Well, if there are no other questions, I think we can go ahead and take this out. So thank you, everyone, for the time today. We certainly hope that these webinars are valuable. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have questions. We also appreciate your feedback. If there's anything that we can do better, we, of course, are in the business of continuous improvement. To check out all of our past webinars, head over to kainexus.com/webinars/office hours. It will take you to this page that you see here. Also, be sure to sign up for our next Training Team Office Hours webinar. That's going to be on March 26th. And Adam and I are going to take a deeper dive into bar line charts in KaiNexus. So we'll go into greater detail of using some of those bar setting enhancements we saw today, as well as some other examples for your line and bar charts.
Yes, that'll be one you guys do not want to miss. That'll be a great webinar for us. So
if you have any questions, as I mentioned, or need assistance with configuration of the features you saw here today, again, please reach out to your KaiNexus customer experience lead. In the meantime, we definitely encourage you to check out, there's Noah, check out our support page at support.kainexus.com. This is the Google search, if you will, of all things KaiNexus related, and a super helpful resource as you continue to study up to become a KaiNexpert in the system.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, Ryan. And we thank everyone in attendance today. Thank you so much for coming out and coming with those great questions prepared. So with all that being said, once again, I'm Adam Darnell. He's Ryan Rippey. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.